There was no emergency broadcast, no press conference, no warning. In the early hours of January 3, 2026, Venezuela stopped having a president. According to U.S. officials, Nicolás Maduro was taken into custody during a covert American military operation, an operation personally authorized by Donald Trump just hours earlier. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time, the final order was given. By 1:01 a.m., U.S. forces were on the ground. Before sunrise, Venezuelan airspace had been cleared. The confirmation didn't come from the Pentagon. It came from a single post on Truth Social. What unfolded next was not an invasion. It was a decapitation. Roughly 150 aircraft launched from more than 20 bases across the Western Hemisphere, fighters, surveillance planes, electronic warfare platforms, moving in near synchronization. The first phase wasn't explosive. It was silent. U.S. Cyber Command, alongside EA-18G Growlers, targeted Venezuelan communications and air defenses. Russian-made S-300 systems went offline. Command nodes disappeared from the map. Before anyone could react, the country's nervous system went dark. Then came the noise. Airstrikes hit military infrastructure in and around Caracas Fort Tiuna, La Carlota Air Base, not to destroy the city, but to overwhelm it. A controlled shock, a diversion. While attention stayed fixed overhead, helicopters moved in low. MH-60M Blackhawks, MH-47G Chinooks, flying beneath radar thresholds. Just 100 feet above the water, using routes no one was supposed to notice. Inside Fort Tiuna, the timeline collapsed. Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were inside their residence when U.S. operators breached. According to the president, the entry was so fast that Maduro never made it into a reinforced safe room. The door never closed. Gunfire followed during extraction. Venezuelan forces engaged the departing aircraft. One helicopter was hit. U.S. personnel were injured, but no American fatalities were reported. Within hours, Maduro and Flores were aboard the USS Iwo Jima en route to New York to face narco-terrorism charges. By morning, Venezuela no longer had a head of state. Officially, the operation fell under Operation Southern Spear, a long-running U.S. initiative described as targeting transnational crime and illicit maritime networks. On paper, it's about drug trafficking, but analysts see something more layered, a hybrid doctrine. Part counterterrorism, part counter-narcotics, and part regime change, which raises the question no one wants to answer directly. Why now? Was this about liberating the Venezuelan people? Was it about dismantling narco networks tied to the state? Was it about removing a leader deemed illegitimate after a contested 2024 election? Or was it about something far older and far more valuable? Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, more than Saudi Arabia. More than Iran, more than Canada. Reserves that have remained largely untapped. Reserves that don't just power economies but shape leverage. Because in modern geopolitics, oil isn't fuel, it's bargaining power, and Venezuela wasn't operating in isolation. By early 2026, China had quietly established itself as the dominant economic force across much of South America, not through troops, not through coups, but through infrastructure. Ports, digital logistics, supply chains, debt, influence built without spectacle, power exercised without headlines. For the first time in decades, U.S. dominance in the region wasn't assumed. It was contested, which reframes the operation entirely. Because regime change is rarely about a single country. It's about signaling, about drawing lines without asking permission, about reminding rivals and allies who still controls escalation. So the real question isn't just what happened in Venezuela, it's what this operation was meant to communicate to Latin America, to Beijing, to global markets, and to governments watching quietly from the sidelines. Because when a head of state disappears overnight, that isn't chaos, that's a message. And messages like this are never sent by accident. The operation is over, the consequences are not. What happens next won't be announced. It will surface slowly, through policy changes, market reactions, and quiet realignments. We'll be tracking how this unfolds over the months ahead. If you're interested in stories like this, where power moves without warning, like the video, subscribe and follow the channel. Because the most important part of the story is never the moment it happens, it's what follows.